Alan Lund Company looks forward to seeing you at Matt's in March.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Reddick.
If you travel on the Ohio Turnpike, you may soon be getting a bill in the mail. That's because a lot of people have failed to pay their tolls, and the Turnpike and Infrastructure Commission is ready to collect. The problem dates back to the start of the Turnpike's new E-ZPass open road tolling system. I'll talk with Charles Cyril of the Ohio Turnpike Commission to go over the problem and some solutions. 2025 is expected to be a pivotal year for autonomous trucks. In this month's issue of Landline magazine, the staff details the plans ahead for driverless trucks and how the new administration could introduce federal rules. Ashley Blackford will discuss that and more from the current issue with Mark Schremer and Tyson Fisher of the magazine staff. And finally, in the last session of Congress, a number of lawmakers put their weight behind a bill that would expand the actual number of truck parking spaces nationwide. Now that bill is back, and lawmakers are working once again to get it passed. I'll get the details from Bryce Mungen of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. We begin with yet another update to the ongoing saga that is beneficial ownership information, or BOI, reporting. The U.S. Treasury Department now says it will not enforce the Corporate Transparency Act. It's the latest and perhaps final chapter of a long story surrounding BOI. Current rules on the books call for most U.S. small businesses to file a beneficial ownership information report, but the Treasury Department announcement effectively means there will be no penalty or fine for businesses that do not comply. Following the announcement, President Trump called beneficial ownership information reporting outrageous and invasive and an absolute disaster. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent called the move a victory for common sense. The Corporate Transparency Act required most small businesses with fewer than 20 full-time employees to file a beneficial ownership information report. The law was passed to combat criminal and terrorist organizations by going after the shell companies they typically rely on to hide illegal activities. President Trump is forging ahead with his plans to impose 25% tariffs on imported goods from Canada and Mexico. The president said in a social media post that the tariffs, delayed last month for 30 days, will go into effect on Tuesday, March 4th. He also threatened an additional 10% tariffs on Chinese goods, on top of the 10% tariff already in effect. President Trump has said that the tariffs will remain in effect until the country's top three trade partners can stem the flow of illegal drugs entering the U.S. All three countries have said they might impose additional tariffs of their own if the U.S. pushes forward with its proposed plan. Fresh off his testimony before a Senate subcommittee, OOIDA Executive Vice President Louis Pugh appeared on Fox Business to amplify his warning about freight fraud in the trucking industry.
96% of trucking is small business carriers. And when this happens to these guys, it can put them out of business. I've had plenty of our members at OOIDA that's been completely put out of business by one load, because it's such a tremendous cost and trucking profit margins are so small.
The Senate Surface Transportation, Freight Pipelines, and Safety Subcommittee met on February 27th to examine the growing problem of cargo theft and freight fraud in the U.S. supply chain. Witnesses told the U.S. senators in attendance that the problem needs to be addressed. Pugh noted a couple of ways to get started. For one, he called on Congress to pass the Household Goods Shipping Consumer Protection Act. The bipartisan bill would restore FMCSA's authority to issue civil penalties against bad actors and require brokers, freight forwarders, and carriers to provide a valid business address to FMCSA before acquiring operating authority. OOIDA also is encouraging regulators to issue a final rule to strengthen existing broker transparency regulations. A proposal is open for public comment through March 20th. A roughly 12-mile stretch of Interstate 40 between North Carolina and Tennessee partially reopened over the weekend, 5 months after Hurricane Helene forced its closure. And while traffic is moving again, it comes with quite a few restrictions. The speed limit there has been reduced to 35 miles an hour. Standard-sized trucks are allowed, but wide loads are not. Truckers are also being advised that there are no alternate routes for commercial trucks beyond Exit 20, contrary to what your GPS might tell you. OOIDA members in Ohio, check your email. The association sent out a call to action to Ohio members last week, urging them to contact Ohio Senate Transportation Committee Chair Tom Patton. The state senator recently raised objections against $200 million for truck parking funding in the state's proposed transportation budget. Truckers are being asked to contact State Senator Patton's office and ask him to reconsider. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine and the Ohio DOT have prioritized an expansion of truck parking capacity and have planned for almost 1,500 truck parking spaces. The $200 million in the proposed transportation budget would fund 900 of those spots. The Colorado State Patrol is ramping up chain checks throughout the state. Right now, there are chain checks at ports of entry, active chain-up stations, and daily roadside contacts. But the State Patrol says it's increasing its efforts that include proactive chain carry checks along the I-70 mountain corridor. According to a press release, the goal is to enforce dangerous moving violations, especially speed and chain law violations. For a full rundown of Colorado's chain laws and chain laws throughout North America, head to the Resources tab on landline.media. Truckers traveling westbound on Oklahoma's Turner Turnpike have one less place to park today. The Oklahoma Turnpike Authority has shut down truck parking at the Exit 179 service area until early next year. It's due to ongoing renovations to the Stroud Service Plaza there. While truck parking won't be available until early 2026, the Oklahoman reports that more than 150 parking spaces will be available once construction is complete, 50 more than are currently offered. If your plans this week include the Interstate 90 and State Highway 41 interchange in Idaho, you'll notice some changes. The Idaho Transportation Department is making changes to accommodate ongoing construction there in the area. The traffic changes include the closure of the I-90 westbound off-ramp to State Highway 41 through this fall. The on-ramp from State Highway 41 to eastbound I-90 will be closed overnight from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. until the middle of March. And finally, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association has announced 3 new alternate board members. Congratulations to newcomers Michael Nichols of Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, and Casey Mulder of Hamilton, Michigan. And congrats also to Grover Nelson of Hardy, Arkansas, who was elected to a second term on the board. Alternate members of the OOIDA Board of Directors attend and actively participate in all board meetings. Nichols, Mulder, and Nelson will all be seated at OOIDA's 2025 Spring Board meeting. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. Congratulations to Bill E. Ader Jr. of Arlington, Texas. He's received the OOIDA Safe Driving Award for 24 years of safe, accident-free driving. That's the equivalent of a car driver going 180 years without causing a single accident. The OOIDA Safe Driving Award program is sponsored by Shell Rotella. And if you're interested in receiving the Safe Driving Award, you can find a link to more information at our website, landlinenow.com. Again, that's at our website, landlinenow.com. Starting Tuesday, Marty Ellis and OOIDA's tour truck, The Spirit of the American Trucker, will be at the TA in Wildwood, Florida. That's located at Exit 329 off Interstate 75. Stop in, say hi to Marty, and join OOIDA for a $10 discount. More than a few truckers have called us over the years to tell us about some problem they've had with a broker, and some of them are extreme. So if you are one of those truckers or anyone else who's had a problem with a broker, now is the time to speak out on the broker transparency proposal. You can make your comments to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration and find a guide on how to do that at the website fightingfortruckers.com. Again, that website is fightingfortruckers.com. Next, I'll discuss an unpaid toll enforcement effort in Ohio with Charles Cyril of the Turnpike and Infrastructure Commission. Ashley Blackford covers a pivotal year for autonomous trucks with Mark Schremer and Tyson Fisher of Landline Magazine. And we'll get a rundown on what's happening with the truck parking bill from Bryce Mungen of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office. I'm Mark Rettig, and this is Landline Now.
Protect your diesel engine with Howe's Diesel Defender. Restore vital lubricity, eliminate injector deposits, and boost fuel economy by 5% or more. Power, performance, protection, all in one. Howe's Diesel Defender, available now.
Firestone's FD694 drive tire for long-haul and regional applications now delivers 126,000 more removal miles than the Yokohama TY517 MC2. Contact your Firestone commercial dealer to learn more.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
If you travel on the Ohio Turnpike, you may be getting a bill in the mail. That's because a lot of people have failed to pay their tolls, and the Turnpike and Infrastructure Commission is ready to collect. You're listening to Landline Now, and I'm your host, Mark Redding. Welcome back to the program. The problem dates back to the start of the Turnpike's new E-ZPass open road tolling system, and the fact that for some drivers, a number of toll booths remain on the road. Charles Cyril, the communications director at the Ohio Turnpike and Infrastructure Commission, spoke with us recently to go over what the problem is, why it's happening, how the Turnpike plans to address it, and how all of that could affect you. I want to start with something I was reading. It's about an effort by the Turnpike and Infrastructure Commission to collect these unpaid tolls. And I want to start with how big of a problem is this? I mean, how many tolls, how much in terms of toll money has not been paid?
We are expecting to collect about $7.4 million in unpaid tolls. So to put that in perspective, toll revenue was about $389 million in 2024.
So it's not a big percentage of it, but it's still a sizable chunk of money.
That is correct. It's about, according to our recent calculations, it accounts for about less than 1% of our toll revenue.
Okay. I'm wondering if you can kind of talk a little bit. I know that you've been looking into why this is happening. Can you kind of explain for folks what it is that's causing right now this amount of non-payment of tolls?
Well, in August 2024, let me backtrack, Mark. Actually,
Sure.
So when the new toll collection system went live on April 10th, 2024, we expected some growing pains. And, as a result of the new system, especially the two new open road tolling plazas, one at milepost 49 in Swanton and the other at milepost 211 in Newton Falls, we expected there would be some growing pains, and it would take some time for travelers to get used to the new system. So what we witnessed is that many customers traveling without E-ZPass were traveling in E-ZPass lanes. So as a result, these customers received unpaid toll invoices in the mail. So it's a combination of factors. It's if the transponder isn't mounted properly, which is an issue we're dealing with, and we're constantly beating the drum of customer education to properly mount the transponders to the windshield so they are properly read. One of the issues we're facing now is under the new system, vehicles are traveling in the open road tolling lanes at highway speed. And, we had a lot of customers that wave the transponders going through the interchangers. We don't recommend that. It's not safe. So it's nearly impossible for someone that doesn't have their transponder properly mounted to have it read properly. So that's another issue we're dealing with. And so fast forward to August 2024, as a courtesy to our customers, we suspended all late fees, collections, and vehicle registration holds to allow our customers to become more familiar with the new open road tolling system.
Now, I just want to clarify one thing here. When you use the term open road tolling, you're defining that as this highway speed pass-through for E-ZPass users, but there are still drivers without E-ZPass that have to use those toll booths that do remain.
Great question, Mark. That is correct. The new system was designed to accommodate all travelers. Customers with E-ZPass can travel nonstop across the 241-mile Ohio Turnpike without stopping. And to accommodate customers without an E-ZPass, we still have about, as it relates to passenger customers, we still have about 30% of our passenger car customers and about 10% of our commercial truck customers don't have an E-ZPass. So they still prefer to take a ticket and pay by cash or credit card. So when you're driving through the new system without an E-ZPass, it's crucial, it's paramount for motorists, all travelers without E-ZPass, to follow the overhead signs, drive to the right, and go through the conventional cash, credit card, toll booth lanes, and either take a ticket or pay your toll.
You mentioned the grace period that you all gave folks to kind of get used to this. And of course, that's over at this point, and the commission is issuing some late fees. Can you kind of walk us through what those fees would be, especially for a large commercial truck?
So beginning February 3rd, 2025, the commission started issuing late fees for unpaid tolls. So what does that mean? So that means customers who incurred an unpaid toll by driving through an E-ZPass lane and who did not pay the first unpaid toll invoice within 30 days will have a $5 late fee added to their second mail invoice for each toll that remains unpaid. And customers who exited through a cash credit card lane who are handed an unpaid toll notice by a toll collector for failure to pay will incur a $5 administrative fee. Now, if that notice remains unpaid for 30 days, that customer will be mailed a second notice, which will include a $5 late fee for each toll that remains unpaid.
I know that this has been in place since the 3rd, and you haven't had a lot of time since you've been issuing these, but does it appear so far, or do you think that this is enough to deter people who don't have an E-ZPass from just flying through instead of stopping at those remaining toll booths?
Well, as part of the new system, video cameras were installed to capture license plate images. So passenger vehicle, commercial truck who purposely or mistakenly drive through an E-ZPass lane, we will capture an image of their license plate, and they will receive an invoice in the mail. The good news is those customers do have 14 days to pay the unpaid toll before that first invoice is mailed out.
Okay. You mentioned there's something, I just want to take an aside here, that you have these cameras that are identifying those drivers who are going through on the E-ZPass lanes who should not be. Some states have actually used that technology to just replace the toll booths for folks who don't have E-ZPass or something like that. Is that something that the Turnpike is considering for the future, or have they just not made a decision one way or the other yet?
The new system, our new open road tolling system, was designed to accommodate both customers with E-ZPass and without E-ZPass. We've, through the process, no toll collectors have lost their jobs. So we're going to continue on that tack. Unlike Pennsylvania, which has toll by plate, we currently provide our customers with both options to pay their tolls, either with E-ZPass, or if a customer prefers to pull a ticket and pay by cash or credit card, they still have that option.
Okay. Now, regarding these notices for the unpaid fees, or unpaid tolls, I should say, excuse me, what happens to someone who does not respond to whatever notice that the Turnpike is sending them? I mean, is there additional fines, or what happens there?
No additional late fees, but beginning February 10th, 2025, the commission started sending any unpaid tolls that were incurred since the new system went live in April 2024. Those unpaid tolls will be sent to the Ohio Attorney General's office for collections, and also to the Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles for a possible hold on vehicle registrations.
Okay. Now, that kind of brings up another question, which is obviously this is a major interstate route. So you've got a lot of traffic on there that is not tagged in Ohio. How are you handling those drivers that have out-of-state tags?
The out-of-state drivers will be included in the invoicing process, of course. Mailed invoices and notice, regardless of if their vehicles are registered in Ohio or out of state, that remain unpaid for 90 days from the issue date will be sent to the Ohio AG's office for collections. And regarding the Ohio BMV, obviously we can only block vehicle registration holds for in-state vehicle registration holders.
Okay. I want to get to some of the practical aspects of this. Obviously, these folks are going to want to make payment if they get one of these notices. Outside of the U.S. mail, is there an online option, or how do people make those payments?
For a customer to make a toll payment with the Ohio Turnpike, they can go to E-ZPass.oh.com and make the payment there. Again, that web address is E-ZPass.oh.com, or they can also call our customer service center at 440-971-2222.
Okay. That's all I have, Charles. Is there anything else regarding this that you think people need to be aware of, or that you just want to add?
To better inform our travelers on the Ohio Turnpike of the new open road tolling plazas, we launched an aggressive paid media campaign. We created a series of 4 videos highlighting each of the open road tolling plazas, which provide information to motorists on following the roadway signs. If you have E-ZPass, you can stay to the left, stay in the open road tolling lanes. And if you don't have E-ZPass, you have to pull off to the right and either take a ticket or pay your toll. And those videos are available for viewing on our website at ohioturnpike.org.
Okay, fantastic. Charles, thank you very much for the information. I really appreciate your time.
Mark, thank you.
That was Charles Cyril, the Communications Director at the Ohio Turnpike and Infrastructure Commission, talking about a problem with unpaid tolls and how the Turnpike plans to handle it. As Charles said, if you have some unpaid tolls in Ohio, you can make a payment by either going to e-zpassoh.com or by calling 440-971-2222. Again, that's e-zpassoh.com or 440-971-2222. And you can view those informative videos at ohioturnpike.org. Again, that website is ohioturnpike.org. And we'll have all those links and that phone number at our website, landlinenow.com. Just click on the photo or headline at the top of the page. That's where you'll find all the website links, phone numbers, and email addresses we mention on the show. Again, that's at landlinenow.com. Meanwhile, you can catch coverage of other toll roads, enforcement efforts, and anything else connected to the trucking industry at the website landline.media and in the pages of Landline Magazine. And you can have that news delivered every day directly to your email inbox by subscribing to the Landline Daily E-News. At the bottom of the landline.media homepage, go to where it says, enter your email address and never miss our headlines. I'm Mark Rettig, and this is Landline Now.
Dispatch, I picked up that load of steel, so I'm ready to roll.
Sounds good. Remember, we're getting paid by weight, so make sure to use a CAT scale.
I wouldn't weigh anywhere else.
Forget misaccuracy when your truck on a CAT scale.
Penske is the trusted source for quality used trucks. Whether you search our website, call our sales staff, or bid at our online auction, you are sure to find the right used truck for your business. Visit PenskeUsedTrucks.com to view our inventory and learn more.
Landline Now, welcome back. We are into the month of March, and that means it's time to talk about a new issue of Landline Magazine. Senior editor Mark Schrimmer and associate editor Tyson Fisher join me now. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I want to start right off from the cover, which says that this year, 2025, is expected to be a pivotal year for driverless trucks. Now, I know you both wrote about this. Tyson, I'll start with you. You wrote, a lot of changes will be seen in the year ahead.
Yeah, this is going to be, the way I've always kind of phrased this is going to be, in my opinion, like a make or break year for autonomous vehicles, specifically self-driving or driverless trucks. So, yeah, basically, so what was supposed to happen last year was Kodiak and Aurora, the two main players in the driverless truck game. They're supposed to roll out driverless trucks, on public roadways in Texas at the end of 2024. That did not happen, which is a good thing it didn't happen because they weren't ready for it. And so we don't want to roll this out too soon. So they were doing the right thing. It's like, okay, we're going to pause this. And so there's we're going to bump it up to 2025. So we are now into 2025. So what we're going to see is we don't have an exact date for Kodiak and when they're going to roll it out. Aurora, though, is supposed to do it in April. So we're in about a month. We're going to see, they're supposed to see truly driverless trucks, like no humans on board anywhere on the Texas highways. I believe Interstate 45 is where we're going to see them mostly. So that's what we're going to be looking forward to for throughout this year. First of all, is it going to happen? And if it does, what is going to happen? Because if something bad happens, like if there's a fatal crash, like just one fatal crash can send the autonomous vehicle industry backwards by a couple of years because you have to go right back to the drawing board. So pretty much all eyes are on Texas to see what happens there. And meanwhile, as far as Washington, D.C., there's the issue of government oversight. So since forever, there's been no government oversight at the federal level when it comes to autonomous vehicles. And I think we might be seeing a shift in that policy or the lack thereof. We've seen, President Trump signal his interest in autonomous vehicles. Several cabinet members, I know, Mark, you have been following the cabinet nominations, and autonomous vehicles get brought up all the time. I know it got brought up with the DOT. They recently get brought up with labor or something.
Yeah, and the Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy during his confirmation hearing, and also Bradbury, who is being up for Deputy Transportation Secretary. They both talked about it, and it's going to be interesting to see kind of where they move on it, because so far they've been kind of couching this, trying to kind of thread the needle a little bit of their responses, because they talk about really wanting to be advocates for technology and innovation, but also brought up cybersecurity concerns, privacy concerns, all of these type of things. And obviously, I think everybody agrees or should agree that we need to know that this is really safe before it gets rolled out onto American highways.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say about that is that the one area where we might see some changes at the federal level is when it comes to the federal motor vehicle safety standards. And so right now, the autonomous vehicle industry is kind of constrained on what they can do as far as the vehicles that they manufacture. So they're allowed to manufacture only a certain amount of high-level autonomous vehicles, self-driving vehicles each year. One thing that Elon Musk has advocated for is to either lift that limit completely, or at least raise it to where you can manufacture tens of thousands of these. So right now, manufacturers cannot mass manufacture these driverless vehicles. Elon Musk would certainly like to change that because he recently announced his plans for the robo-taxis, which he would like to roll out by 2026 or 2027. So in order to do that, there needs to be changes to the federal level. We all know he has the eyes and ears of Trump, so that's why I'm kind of optimistic that we could see some actual federal oversight, which, by the way, the autonomous vehicle industry wants, because that will provide the certainty that they need.
Yeah, one thing I'll just kind of add to this too, and I completely agree that this is a make or break or pivotal year for driverless trucks. But even then, let's say, on this Texas highway, they're successful on these roads. For my understanding, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Tyson, these are going to be basically dedicated routes and, basically straight shot sort of situations that we're talking about early on. That does not mean that a full-scale over the long haul trucking, driverless trucks just all over the road, so going from California to New York is going to be a good idea.
Right.
Even if there aren't any incidents for the next 6 months or.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So it's going to be a very limited scope as far as the testing of these trucks. And so what we can glean from that would be very limited, But to that, though, I know our state legislative editor, Keith Goebel, wrote about all the state autonomous trucking rules. And so that can actually cause a problem for interstate deployment, because I know there's at least, I think, 5 states, so Delaware, Indiana, Maryland, North Dakota, Virginia, they all have a bill currently in their respective Congresses that would restrict self-driving trucks, specifically the trucks, or anything 10,000 pounds or more. So basically what they want is if you want to test or deploy driverless trucks, there has to be a human on board, which would kind of render the driverless part kind of, pointless. So, but it's like you can test it with a human driver, you just can't deploy fully driverless. So those are just bills, those aren't rules yet, but there are at least a handful of states that want to do that, which, that would kind of screw up any plans for any type of interstate deployment,
Now, switching to another popular topic, broker transparency. Mark, where are we with that?
Well, so, from the magazine standpoint, we kind of really focused on OIDA's comments, because if you remember, there was originally a 60-day comment period on that ran through January 21st. We got nearly 5,000 comments on that. Some, really key points made by OIDA and individual truckers. And really where that kind of focus on was restoring fairness and also focusing on the aspect that broker transparency regulations already exist. They haven't been followed for decades. And so basically all this rule would do is strengthen those existing regulations and make efforts to end those loopholes for brokers being able to waive those rights or get out of the ability of following the regulations. But where we are now is following we printed the magazine, the new administration decided to reopen the comment period, and that is going through until March 20th. So if you are a driver who didn't get a chance to comment the first time, you have another chance. Even if you did and you thought, I should have included this, go ahead and comment again. But it'll be interesting to see how many more comments we get now, because we already had a good turnout with about 5,000.
Now, of course, with the new administration in Washington, we're starting to see a lot of changes, including several with vehicle emission rules. And Tyson, I know you wrote about this.
Yeah, so another thing, so we talked about, autonomous vehicle policies and changes, but another thing we're going to see as far as sweeping changes from the federal government is, when it comes to vehicle emission regulations. We've already started to see some of that. So on day one, Trump signed an executive order that basically to get rid of what he calls the electric vehicle mandate. So what does that mean? Don't know exactly. It was a kind of a pretty, broad language there. But we have seen some action since then. One thing we have seen is, the DOT is trying to roll back the fuel economy standards. Now, this affects mostly passenger vehicles. The fuel economy standards is basically the miles per gallon. So vehicle manufacturers have to reach a minimum miles per gallon for their vehicles. I think it's set like at 30-something miles per gallon now. They want to roll that back to where it was. So Biden kind of increased that significantly. And so what the Trump administration is trying to do is to roll it back to where it was pre-Biden. So around 2019, 2020, around then. But another thing is there's a greenhouse gas measurement. So also during the Biden administration, the Federal Highway Administration, they established a rule to where DOTs have to kind of just look at vehicle greenhouse gas measurements and kind of set like a target on reducing it. There's no hard target for any particular states. They can adjust it to their own needs. But they've already got the ball rolling to to roll that back as well. So those are the two things we have seen so far. Now, the other thing that the executive order asked to do was to look at state regulations that would prevent the sale of gas-powered vehicles. That is basically just a call to California, is what it is. Without saying the word California, he basically did. So yeah, California. And the thing is, the federal government can get involved with California's vehicle emission standards because they required a EPA waiver to have those stricter emissions. And so, basically, what the federal government can do is just come in and just revoke those waivers that they gave them. The ball is getting rolling for that. So that would include advanced clean cars, which is for passenger vehicles, but that also would mean advanced clean trucks is going to be on the chopping block. And so far, a bill to get rid of advanced clean cars 2 has been introduced in Congress. We haven't seen it for advanced clean trucks, but I think the key word here is yet. I don't think there is any reason why they would not go after advanced clean trucks, with also going with advanced clean cars. So these are the things that we can look forward to. The other thing that hasn't been done yet, but I think is also in the chopping block, is last year the Biden administration passed a very sweeping, stricter federal truck emission rules. That I'm sure is also going to go in front of Congress to repeal that as well. So these are all things that we can look forward to, I would say, within this year alone. We can probably see that happening now.
Yeah, another thing that I'll add when you talk about on the regulatory front, we talk about the rollback of things that maybe have already been made into a final rule. But the other thing that we're going to see are so many just inaction on things that were going through the process that they didn't get across the finish line before the Biden administration went out. And we're talking about such things like speed limiters. That didn't get through, so you don't expect any action on that now. Automatic emergency braking for heavy-duty vehicles, that's another one that I think could fall by the wayside. And if we look back at the previous Trump administration, there were a lot fewer regulations that were coming through, or they're even being proposed. And so, using that as kind of our compass guiding us through this next one, I think that you're going to expect to see more of the same on that. You're going to see fewer and far between regulations coming through. Some of the things that you might see, though, are again, it's kind of going back to the rollback of, like, say, the independent contractor rule, where Trump had brought in his rule, Biden changed it to his rule, and we'll go back to the Trump rule.
Yeah, and to that, so what the Trump administration did in his first term was that he got rid of advanced clean cars through the EPA just revoking that waiver. Pretty much in a regulatory action, which, as you pointed out, another administration can come in and reverse. What he's doing this time around is he's trying to get rid of California regulations through the legislative means, which would eradicate it permanently. So that means a new administration couldn't come in and reverse that. So kind of going for the long game here. So I don't know if it'll work, but we'll see.
It sounds like you guys aren't going to be bored at all coming up this year.
Not at all. Not at all.
No.
How do you guys, there's a lot to cover. And with the new administration, it sounds like there's a lot of ping-ponging back and forth. And, looking back on Trump's first term, how do you keep it all straight?
Just keep your head on the swivel. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, for the most part. And I think, Tyson would agree with this too. Neither of us are, at this point in the last recent months, really looking for stories. There's plenty on our plate every day that we can tackle.
For sure.
All right. Well, we appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Our thanks to Mark Schremer and Tyson Fisher of Landline Magazine. You can also check out landline.media for the latest from the trucking industry. And if you have a news tip for us, you can contact us through our website or call 816-229-5791. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. We'll be back after this.
At Truck Stop, we built a better load board for carriers like you. Sign up today and access over 600,000 loads on the most trusted online load board. Learn why the best in the business rely on Truck Stop to make more money and start driving your profit today.
Capital Reman, the leader in remanufactured diesel engines and components, has partnered with OOIDA to offer exclusive member benefits. Visit capitalreman.com today to support America's transportation industry and take advantage of your benefits.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline now. Welcome back. In the last session of Congress, a number of lawmakers put their weight behind a bill that would expand the actual number of truck parking spaces nationwide. Now, that bill is back. Here to fill us in is Bryce Mungen of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office. Bryce, how are you doing?
I'm good, Mark. How about yourself?
Very well. First of all, I want to start with this because this effort has been led in both the last Congress and in the current Congress by a particular Illinois lawmaker. Tell us something about him.
Yes. So Congressman Mike Bost is from Illinois. He has a trucking background. He, worked and ran his family trucking business before coming to Congress, and his family still has that business. So he knows inside and out the issues that truckers face. And, he is one of the best advocates that we have on Capitol Hill and is certainly the leader on this truck parking legislation. I hate to do it, but this is actually, this will be the fourth time that we've had this truck parking bill introduced. So certainly we're frustrated and want to see it get over the finish line. But I think that really speaks to Congressman Bost's commitment to getting this issue taken care of.
You mentioned that it has been in Congress 4 times previously, and that does seem very frustrating. But some bills, it takes that to get things through Congress these days, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not surprising. So going back, and I had a bit of a shock, or I don't know exactly what you call it, but the first time this bill was introduced was actually March 2020. And that was the last time Congress was working on a highway bill. And so as we've talked about a few times now over the past few weeks, highway bill is where most of the trucking policy that we deal with and our big priorities, that's where it gets done and that's where action is taken. So last highway bill, we pushed real hard. We came close, but ultimately we're not successful in getting truck parking in the highway bill. So that's why we continue to have the legislation introduced, continue to get support for it and build support for it. But we're not surprised that the bill didn't move forward on its own. We did get close. It's passed through committee before in the House, but couldn't get it over the hump on the House floor. So that's why we're really ramping up again because Congress is starting their work on the highway bill again. So it's just, unfortunately and frustratingly, that's just the way some of these things go on Capitol Hill.
Let's talk a little bit about the overall problem here. And I'm sure that we don't have to explain to truckers out there that there is a shortage of truck parking spaces, but kind of taking a broader look rather than the individual's perspective, how bad is this parking problem right now?
Yeah, it's really the number that we start with when talking to folks is that there is 1 truck parking space for every 11 trucks on the road. And obviously, anyone listening to this has seen it firsthand. But what we tell folks is, if you're driving around at night on the interstates and you see trucks parked on the side of the road, you're seeing the truck parking shortage. It's not drivers that are parking there because they want to. It's because that is their last resort. So it's something that's been going on for at least 2 decades now. United States Department of Transportation has now done 2 nationwide studies of this. And the second most recent study has confirmed that the problem is in every state, every region of the country, and it continues to get worse. So, now myself, having worked on this issue for a while, I start to sense, I think, maybe just a fraction of the frustration that our members and that truckers have when they hear people talking about studies and the need to look into this issue more because we know it's a problem. But we know that now is the time to move toward the solution of actually expanding truck parking capacity.
You mentioned that figure, 1 space for every 11 trucks on the road. How does this bill tackle this? I mean, what would the bill specifically do?
Yes, so this legislation would dedicate funding for the expansion of truck parking capacity. So what we always tell lawmakers is that federal funding can be used already for building truck parking, but the problem is it's competing with things like fixing bridges, fixing roads, fixing dangerous interchanges. And when when truck parking has to compete for funding with those types of projects that are more politically popular and that more constituents will experience on an everyday basis, truck parking loses out. So what this legislation does is it takes those existing uses and sets it aside for focusing on truck parking. So what we've stressed to people is this is not creating some new use of federal funds. It's not anything crazy. It's just making sure that truck parking capacity finally gets the attention that it deserves. And the other important thing is that the funding in the program is flexible in that it can be used for the construction of a new rest area with truck parking spaces. It can be used to expand an existing rest area to add more truck parking spaces. It can be used if for example, a private truck stop wants to partner with a local government or something like that to add public parking near a private stop or with access to a private stop. That's something that's possible. Because we know when you're dealing with Congress and you're dealing with the country as a whole, one solution is not going to work everywhere. It may be that in one district you can only add a couple more truck parking spaces at a rest area. You can't go adding a whole new rest area. So the legislation is designed to work across the country. And one other thing, though, that I'll point out, because, as when you mention private truck stops, maybe ears go up. One of the other really important aspects of this legislation is that there can be no fees to access this parking for reservations or anything like that. So we know that drivers and truckers and small carriers have already paid for parking. They've already paid for pavement with the taxes that they pay in for fuel taxes and the Highway Trust Fund. So this bill makes sure that there's no additional fees to pay to access parking that you've already paid for with your tax dollars.
OOIDA is pushed for more parking for years and has been kind of leading on this issue. I want you to talk a little bit about the association's efforts. What has OOIDA done up till now, beyond just supporting bills like this, to try and get this to move forward?
Yeah, we've engaged a lot with state DOTs and, frankly, anyone at any level of government who is looking at expanding truck parking or trying to figure out where their truck parking needs are. We've done that through our government affairs team. We've done that through the foundation. So we've helped different people to basically identify where could they build truck parking, or help them to identify why this is such a problem. At a certain point, you get to feel like, how does not everyone understand this? But part of the important work is doing that background work so that when funding becomes available, hopefully like we'll see through this legislation, that it's ready to be implemented. So I know I mentioned earlier we were frustrated every time you kind of see a new study or suggesting a new study or something like that to look at truck parking. But we know that has to be at least some small part of addressing this issue. So that's some of the stuff that we do behind the scenes.
A lot of times these bills do get folded into a larger piece of legislation. And you, in fact, mentioned earlier specifically the highway bill, which is a logical place to put something like this. Mm-hmm. But the next highway bill, as I understand it, doesn't come along until 2026. Mm-hmm. Is it likely that we're looking at waiting until that long to try and get some action on this issue? Or is there a chance that this will move forward before that?
I think we'll see movement on the bill. So kind of from a procedural standpoint, the House T&I committee, we know, is starting to move forward with a highway bill. They know that it doesn't expire till the end of next year, but they've said they're going to start talking to lawmakers and start putting that bill together. So now is the time to get active, and now is the time to make sure it's part of the highway bill. So I would say it's unlikely that we'll see this signed into law before the highway bill expires, or at least till around that time. But that doesn't mean, we can wait until that happens. The work needs to be done now. So we're going to keep talking about this, and hopefully we'll have more progress to report on it soon.
Excellent. Bryce, thank you very much for the information.
Yes, thank you.
I've been talking with Bryce Mungen of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office. And folks, you can contact your lawmakers about this bill by calling 202-224-3121. Or you can write a letter using the website fightingfortruckers.com. Again, that website, fightingfortruckers.com. That's our program for today. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
My kids.
chrome.
And I am
a professional truck driver.
And together, we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us.
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit ooida.com.